Welcome to the Inventory Professional Podcast, brought to you by InventoryBase, providers of industry-leading property inspection software, accredited training, and on-demand property reports. Join us as we discuss the latest news, legislation, and all things property, hosted by our very own inventory expert, Siân Hemming-Metcalf. With regular special guests, listen in to our open and honest discussions about the role of the inventory professional and how to navigate through this ever-changing, fast-paced industry.
Hi, welcome to the InventoryBase Professional Podcast. This is our first podcast with me, Siân, from InventoryBase Academy, and the lovely Melissa from MGN Inventories. Melissa, say hi.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? You all right?
Yes, good, thank you.
Right, lovely. Well, this is our first podcast, and the idea behind podcasting is that as inventory clerks, we really don't have a voice. If you look on social media, yes, we tweet, we put out posts, etc. But I don't really see anybody talking, and I think you agree, Melissa. Me and you talk quite a lot.
Yes.
I think our last time we went out for coffee, and when we were talking over doing reports, we were there for I don't know, I think at least good 2 hours or more.
That's it. Time easily flies when you've got a lot to say.
Oh, it is, and it's great to be able to talk with people like yourself who's in the industry and got really enthusiastic, and as enthusiastic as I am about what we do as both a job and I don't know, probably maybe vocation might be a little bit too strong, but I think we both enjoy what we do.
Yes, absolutely.
Great, lovely. So the idea going forward is there's going to be a general discussion. Our podcasts are going to be topical, seeing what's going on in the industry, and there's huge amounts, as we know. We've got tenant fee ban, we've got Section 21 being discussed, looking to be banned, Section 8 coming in, and we've got just a general day-to-day work of an inventory clerk, which I don't know about you, Melissa, but often most people don't even know we're there.
No, that's it. I think we're very much behind the scenes. People might see us for sort of like 5 or 10 minutes when we pop into an office, and then we're out of sight, out of mind. I was in property management for about 10 years, and I'd worked my way up through various positions. I kind of fell into lettings, as it were, went into administration, then property management. And then as part of that, it just sort of naturally flowed that I started doing some checkouts just within the role. And then that in turn went to a company that thought they might do some inventories in-house, and they decided against that in the end.
Probably a good idea, especially now.
Yes, it's never seems to pan out. So I started doing some of that as well. And whilst I'd had experience of sort of always looking at people's reports, I'd never really thought of it on the opposite side, what it takes to compile them, and what was really involved. And I realised that actually I quite enjoyed that side of things. And just made me start thinking that that's something that I would sort of want to do full time, and how I would go about it, really, which is where the idea of MGN Inventories came from.
I didn't have the same experience as you. I had nothing to do with inventories at all. Mine was totally born out of the fact that I was a landlord at the time, had an inventory done on my property that was completely useless. It was awful. It was one of the worst ones I'd say one of the worst ones I've ever seen. I didn't really have a comparable at the time, but now looking back and what I know of inventories and what I do, what you do, what I see of other people report wise, it was truly awful, and it didn't protect me. I ended up with a bill of something like £1,600.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it was terrible. And the agent, just to be honest with you, didn't care. They really didn't care. I mean, this gives you an example. When the tenants had left, they left it in a god-awful state, dog hair everywhere. It was filthy, and we redecorated and, put worktops in and, really made it look nice and clean and tidy and so on and so forth. Great big fridge freezer right smack bang in the middle of the kitchen. Just left it. So I said to the agent about it, and all the agent was worried about is whether actually could he come and pick it up for his brother who needed one.
Oh, and my goodness.
I was looking, thinking, my God, really? Is that all you're interested in? And then I said to him about the deposit and everything, for the cleaning. Oh, no, we're giving it back to the tenant. Right.
Oh, wow.
I know, exactly. I said, did you do a checker? Oh, no. We thought it was all okay. Is it not okay? Pulling dog hair out the cooker. I've never seen yeah, well, I have seen things like it since, because I think now I'm completely immune to any of it. But at the time, I think even I had to have a bit of a sit down at that point. So that's kind of like my introduction. And I'm a bit like you. Then I decided, well, I left the job that I was previously in, thought, what can I do? And I thought, well, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Surely this can be done better. And that's kind of like where I've really started. But I don't know about you, but since then, I think I've seen all manner of weird and wonderful things.
Yes, like you say, you get a little bit desensitized to things now. It's every now and again, something will happen. It does really shock me. But I think that kind of leads on to really my experience of private landlords who are very much surprised at the condition of a property. Whereas I think because we see it so often, there's that little bit of sort of education and expectations in it that it is actually, something that's quite common a lot of the time with mold and cleaning and that kind of thing.
I've got so many stories, and it's not going to be all for today. Otherwise, we'll just do the whole podcast in one go, and that will be it. But I've got so many stories about things we've come across and had to deal with and manage and etc. So hopefully that will form future podcasts, but certainly gives you an understanding that it's not a straightforward job.
No, absolutely. And as much as things are sometimes similar, it's never really the same.
Yeah, no, totally. So how are you finding the industry as it stands at the moment? Obviously, we're in February, beginning of a new year. It tends to be a little bit quiet around about this time. But have you seen much of a change since the tenant fee ban's come in?
There was a large agent that I worked for that sort of immediately, I assume, kind of panicked and thought, well, what are we going to do? We're not going to have any money. And they decided to do things in-house. So there's that sort of downside for them that really no one's got experience, and they're just sort of sending out people who already had full days to say, you do this inventory and you do this checkout, and they're not really sure what they're looking for. But since then, things have been pretty much an even keel. I mean, like you say, it's a little bit quieter this time of year, but I haven't had too many other people worried about it. I don't think there's that many sort of knee-jerk reactions anymore. I don't think there's much sort of happening with people deciding now to take things on board themselves just because of the fee ban.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I really do think you're right. I think there was a lot of panic, a lot of worry, certainly before it came in, wondering what was going to happen. I remember doing a webinar with Dominic from Pinstripe Inventories up in Scotland, and they'd had gone through that transition in 2012. And for them, and certainly for Dominic, what he was saying to me at the time and has done since is that, it's not the end of the world. There will be some changes. Some agents will go in-house, but majority won't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of people who don't necessarily know think it is a really easy thing to do. And again, people that have decided to take it in-house, I sort of assume that they're kind of thinking, oh, someone can just rush in and then they'll come back to the office and they'll type a quick report. And I don't think people realise sort of the managing of what you're doing. And if you get a property that actually is in really bad condition, the amount of time that takes, and it's whether you're going to put 100% into that, or again, if people are doing it themselves, if they're just going to kind of gloss over it a little bit, which might have been what happened with your agent initially, is that they went in and kind of thought, oh, it doesn't look too bad, but they're not really looking in depth at the important things.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think depending on what angle you're coming from, your viewpoint of a property definitely differs. I mean, for us, it's all about the property. It's about what we can see, what we can record, what we can evidence. Whereas a landlord, sometimes that's been the family home, or the marital home, or it holds special significance for them. So the way they look at it is slightly different. And of course, then potentially from an agent or property manager, they're looking at it as a source of revenue. So again, it's completely different. So yeah, it's managing all those people's expectations and making sure that they're fully aware of what an inventory report is. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I don't think some people really understand exactly what it's meant to be for and about, and what it's meant to include. It's like there's an expectation that it's just going to be, I don't know, a couple of pages, a couple of pictures, if it's going to be all hunky-dory, and it's just not that way.
No, and I recently had someone, private landlord, that was surprised that I was opening cupboards.
Really?
He was like, oh, I didn't realise you'd look in there. And I think that just goes to show.
Wow, really? I mean, why would you not? It's like also looking in things like ovens, or, even describing things like, I don't know, cupboards, like in hallways, recess cupboards, etc., or boiler cupboards. Funny enough, I had that exact conversation with the landlord the other day, and he said, like, how long would a job take? And I think it was a couple of hours. Oh, really? Well, why does it need to take a couple of hours? Surely you just take a couple of pictures, and that's kind of like it, isn't it? So I explained it to them, and I think after about, I don't know, 2-3 minutes, it started to gloss over. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. It's too much for me. You just crack on and give me the report back when you're done.
And that's it, especially for unfurnished properties. I think both private landlords, agents alike, some of them struggle to see the value in why you need it for an unfurnished property and how it will take that long. Yeah. Not really thinking about all the things that can go wrong with an unfurnished property. It's not just about the fact you've got a bed and a sofa in somewhere for furnished, which, holds its value.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's not much of an appreciation that people will actually live there. This is going to be their home going forward for however long the tenancy is, and that, they're going to live there, going to eat there, have friends over, etc., etc. They want to treat it as their home, which is quite right. They're paying for that, through their rent, etc. And that, things will go wrong, things will get marked or might not, be as clean as. And the only way you can evidence any of that is going to be via an inventory. It just doesn't suddenly, adjudicator won't kind of just go, oh, okay, well, I'll take your word for it that it was great at the beginning and all happy and shiny, and now it's not. And of course you can have all the money, from the deposit. I think sometimes people's expectations totally misaligned with actual reality.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, it is difficult for people to grasp how someone will live in a property. I think, agents obviously are more savvy to it. They're seeing it all the time. But I think private landlords are sometimes quite shocked that there would be a, furniture rub from a sofa. And they'll compare it to how they live in their own home. For example, on an inspection, and they might say, oh, but I don't like the crumbs on the worktop, I would have washed up. And it's just different people's living conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's setting people's expectations, and quite often I find as an inventory professional, I say inventory professional, a lot of people say clerk, but I always feel clerk is a bit, I don't know, not enough. It's
underwhelming.
It doesn't quite describe what it is we do, because we're so much more than just a report writer, because they said we're managing people's expectations and managing issues, and also, of course, the whole process. Plus, obviously, if like myself, I work with a load of other self-employed clerks. So you're managing, their expectations, their issues, and etc. And there's so much more to the role. So to me, I find inventory professional more descriptive, more correct, but still not quite there. I mean, what kind of terminology do you prefer?
So I think I've sort of fallen into saying clerk. But I do feel like there needs to be something else, another title that would sort of more accurately describe really sort of the importance of what we do. If you think we're, documenting what could be someone's biggest asset. Yeah. And just to say, say a clerk, and it feels like you say, that we're not sort of really that important. We're in and out, and it's not a big part of the process. And I think when you look at sort of the whole process, the lettings process, it can easily get overlooked, the inventory and the checkout. But actually, when you think about it, it is such an important role. It's the main thing. Yes, the agent might have looked after a leak during the tenancy, or, various things might have happened. The fence might have fallen down. But actually, what's been documented at the beginning and the end of the tenancy is almost the most important thing.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, because at the end of the day, like you quite rightly said, the life of the tenancy is one thing, but the fact that, we're effectively setting the tone, we're describing how everything is, the condition, what's included, what's not included, and then we're doing it at the end. And then that has such an impact, or potential impact, on the deposit. And then obviously then there's also the potential issue of people falling out over it, landlord to tenant, tenant not being happy, landlord not being happy, letting agent not being happy. So there's a lot of people that could not be happy because of something we do. But again, I'm of the view that's why we should always centre our reports around the property, so you take the emotion out of it. So it's not about what the landlord wants, what the tenant wants, what the agent wants. It's what's physically there. And then that way, then, hopefully, like I said, people get less emotive about it. I mean, we're bound to get people that are not happy. I mean, I'm sure you've had experience of.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it does happen. And I think emotions are very high, regardless of whether it's an investment property for a landlord or, it used to be their home, their parents' home. And again, with tenants, all they're really thinking about is having the deposit back. So anyone saying, pointing out any faults is going to be annoying and produce that response. But I think, sometimes I've had a private landlord who is almost upset that you would say something at the beginning. And I've, again, had to have that educating conversation with them that it is there. And sort of one of two things will happen. If I don't say it's there and a tenant picks up it's there, then it kind of casts doubt over the whole report, the credibility of it.
Yeah, it puts into question your capability as a clerk, because if they can see it, how comes you didn't see it? And then
exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think sort of you've mentioned before, again, sort of focusing on the property, but it being writing the reports for sort of the end user, almost like the DPS, the TDS. And if tenants are going to point out that you missed lots of things, that you didn't state it, or you didn't say it was as bad as what it was, I think, it does automatically sort of, it's a bit of a red flag. It casts a bit of doubt over what is accurate in the report. And landlords want it to be very in-depth at the end. They would want that at the end on the checkout. So it's important to have it both ways.
Exactly. And this is where it comes back down to people management, because as you quite rightly say, and I've had, and I'm sure our listeners have had as well, is that inevitable conversation at the beginning is like, oh, it's okay, it's absolutely fine. And then at checkout, I want this noted, I want that noted, I want that speck of dust noted, and there's a bit of a scratch on the door if you get it in the right kind of light, I want it noted. And that's great, and that's fine. If it's there and we can evidence, great. But like you quite rightly say, it's got to be balanced. It's got to be done at the beginning, at the end. Otherwise, it's a pointless exercise. And it does call into question then us as a profession as to whether we're doing our job well. So for me, I am always trying to set the expectation with the client straight away to say, this is how I view it. This is how I do the work, or my clerks do the work. So it's all about the property, and then everybody is covered. If you don't want that, if you want something that is going to potentially be in your favour, then really I'm not the right person, or we're not the right business for you, because we need to be literally on that proverbial fence. Impartiality is so key to what we do.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have even had that from agents who sort of almost ask you to cast a blind eye over something on the inventory, maybe so the property doesn't sound as bad, various other reasons at the end of the tenancy. And I am happy to distance myself from that and say to them, like you say, we need to be impartial. And I think a lot of people understand it when it is fully explained, and if they're still not happy with that, then it's just not the right fit for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think certainly as we move forward, I mean, there's loads of conversations, and I'm sure you're very much aware, because I know how up to date you are in current matters with industry, but we've got potential ROPA, which is the new regulations that are coming in for estate and letting agents, where they're going to be regulated and licensed and overseen by a government body. And there's a very big question then about, where we fit as inventory providers, especially around the whole issue of impartiality and professionalism. And some people have kind of like said that there is potentially a conflict of interest, especially with bodies like Arla, etc., who fundamentally are looking after estate and letting agents. Do we fit there or fit somewhere else? But that'll be another conversation for another podcast. But it's interesting, I think, I don't know about you, about how the industry is changing and how rapid that change is.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the changes that I've seen throughout sort of, doing lettings and doing property management and now to sort of running this business, it seems like there are so many things. And I know sort of a lot of people say, it's hoops to jump through and this has changed and that has changed. And I do see that, and I see sort of the background side of it, that for agencies there is actually so much more work. And it is difficult, I think, a lot of these changes that we all have to change our practices. If a regulation comes through, yes, it's important to the agent, but then we need to consider, are we adding that to our reports as well? Are we documenting it in some way? But it is all for the greater good, really. It's only really improving, the industry as a whole.
Oh, totally. And I think, I've said this before on previous webinars I've done. It's a real opportunity for change and positive change, not just for the tenant's experience, but also for landlords, for agents, and also very much for us as clerks. I think it's very much a great opportunity to really push our profession forward, because I do feel, and I really do believe, it is a profession, and we should be seen that way, but then we also have to act and provide reports in that kind of way as well. So everything's got to be professional, impartial, non-biased, and basically just done to the best of our ability. And I think now, like you said, it's an opportunity to really showcase that, really stand up. And I've been quite interested to see that we've gone from being what I would say a very quiet role, i.e. not a lot of people talking. We all I don't know about you, but we all tend to work in silos almost. From that point of view, I think that's changing for great and really good reasons. But I think there's so much more we need to do, and I think we really do need to, like I said, put a head above the parapet and say, actually, we do a really good job. We're a really good professional service. We really deserve to be counted in the same way as other professions, that we do a vital job. Because people losing deposits, some of them, they range from £1,000 to anything to I've seen deposits for £10,000. That is a lot of money potentially to lose, because we haven't done our job properly, or the report showcased the property as it should do. So there's some great room for like improvement and growth for us as providers, and how we're seen. Yes,
absolutely. And I think that will only help if we can be seen as separate, really, like you said, that sort of conflict of interest, possibly with Arla and other bodies. We need it to be more something specific to us and maybe completely separate. And there are variations of reports out there and clerk styles, and like you mentioned with your inventory in the beginning, at the time you thought it was bad, and then later, now that you've got experience of it, that it really was quite poor. But I think that almost, if we have some sort of regulation within our industry, it will kind of wheedle out that, and then there'll at least be a general standard, which can only help. I've seen some sort of poor reports that I've had to use to do a checkout on, and I've had reports that have missed rooms and various other things, or just been completely silent on a matter when you can see it in the picture. Yeah. So I think if amongst us we can all bring up our standard, then I think that helps for us to be taken more seriously.
Oh, totally. And I think we also not just have to look outward to, other providers. I think, it's all about our own personal development as well. It's always looking to see what can we do better? How can we be more helpful to the client? And that client can be anybody. It could be the tenant, could be the landlord, can be the agent. They should all be treated the same. The level of service we should be providing should be all, the best that we possibly can. But with that, I would also say then, if that's the case and that's what we want to do and we can provide that, then we need to have that acknowledgement that that's what we're doing. And with the regards to rates, what we're paid for doing the work, how we're seen, how we're treated with the industry. And I'm not saying, we're mistreated at all. I mean, I'm sure you would agree, but the relationships I have with my clients are brilliant. That they're absolutely lovely. And we really work hard with them and try and make it, the job the best we can for them. But equally, I think we're just kind of like almost like the inventory fairy. We turn up the keys, like you said, we disappear, and all of a sudden there's a report.
Yes, the magic happens.
Exactly. Yeah, very much so. So I think we need a bit more of a level playing field, but to be fair to certainly to the clients I work with, and that they're really, really good, but then that's why I work with them, because we have such a good rapport. But I think there's always room for improvement. I can improve myself, I can improve my business, I can improve my service.
Yes, and like you say, the personal development side is big. It would be easy to be complacent and just sort of go about your daily business and not look at what regulations are now affecting agencies, what might be coming in, how things are changing for them. It'd be quite easy to think I've done this format for years, this is what I'll continue to do, and not change it as time goes on. But it's sort of that personal reflection and the added value to the agent, if they know that you are on the ball and you're aware of issues and you're not sort of just popping in and out the keys, doing your little bit and you're off. They know sort of you're an integral part of that process as well. Then it does add the value.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've got to, I've been saying quite a lot, and we've got to look beyond the report. And we've got to look at the wider industry and like you said, what's going on, what the impacts are, how we can help them. Because if we help the agents, then that secures our position with working with them. And that's what we want to do. We want secure work for our clerks, for our businesses, seen as professional service and everything that comes with that. It's no different to any kind of business. You want to be the best you can so that, you get paid for that, but also you're recognised for that. And I think that's a bigger, certainly a conversation to be having, as we move forward. So I think on that basis, I think that's a great way to kind of like finish today's podcast. So thank you, Melissa. As always, it's absolute pleasure to talk with you.
Lovely chatting with you.
And Melissa and I are going to be doing more podcasts together, but I'd also welcome other inventory professionals, agents, landlords, tenants, industry bodies. Contact me so that maybe can be involved in other podcasts and chats, talk about issues that are affecting you as a business, maybe even as a person around the lettings industry, and get the industry talking more openly and seeing how we can improve our service and what we offer, the benefit of everybody. So please do subscribe. We hope you've enjoyed our chat today, and look forward to meeting you on the next Inventory Professional podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Inventory Professional podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, subscribe to our podcast now and share the love. This podcast was brought to you by InventoryBase, providers of industry-leading property inspection software, accredited training, and on-demand property reports.